Hi guys, welcome back. So one of the things I want to discuss in regards to the Diddy situation is an interview that Suge Knight did, revealing, I guess his somewhat compassionate side. He was saying that he wasn't going to gloat about what's happening to Diddy, that he wouldn't wish prison on anybody, obviously because he's there now and he's dealing with the reality of being incarcerated. And he said that, it's nothing to celebrate, that he's just not going to gloat in the downfall of another black man.
Me personally, I don't jump up and down and cheer for no black man going to prison or any other man, any other human being going to prison. Because people think prison is always the answer. I'm not saying a lot of people don't deserve to do their time and see what's going on. But at the same time, that's not no cheerful thing, because when you look at it, that man have kids. Mm-hmm. And whatever affects him definitely affects his kids.
So that's fair enough. But he also gave some insight into why he thinks Diddy is the way he is. And he basically blamed the industry. It was somewhere along the lines of he was abused, so he went on to abuse others. Now, I don't think he was saying it was an excuse, obviously. But I think he wanted to highlight who the perpetrators are within the industry that, had something to do with why Diddy is the way he is and what he got involved in. So it was a very interesting interview. It did give a different perspective. Definitely not excusing Diddy for anything, but it did help to give a bit more depth into the music industry and just how dark it is. So he reminded everybody that Diddy has a family, he has kids. So he's thinking about them too in this situation. So this is the part where he gives some insight into the fact that he believes that the way Diddy is today is learned behavior, that he was essentially taught everything he knows by people who are higher up within the industry. And he was a victim himself at one point, then went on to victimize other people. Now, I know the last thing you want to refer to Diddy as being is a victim, but I think he's just pointing out that there's a lot of abuse that goes on within the industry. There's a lot of drugs that are used to control people. So Diddy learned that behavior from others. He didn't just come up with this predatory behavior by himself. He was taught it. A lot of the time, that does seem to be a pattern when it comes to the cycle of abuse in some situations.
If he didn't react or people he got or doing those things or those allegations by himself. He was taught from people before him, and he did it to the younger people after him.
So he's suggesting that he was a victim specifically of SA and drugs. Drugs were used to control him. He even goes on to say that he thinks that what he's going through right now in prison is withdrawal. He suggested that, this guy has been on drugs for the longest time. So being in prison right now, he's going to be suffering the effects of withdrawal. Now, I know Eugene Dill, he did say that he developed an addiction to painkillers after he had an altercation with Kim Porter. And I think his hand was split open. Actually cut his hand pretty good in self-defense. And he was put on pain medication, and he said that he became addicted after that.
Kim had it almost severed the artery. He was bleeding like crazy. And that's the reason. And that's when that opioid crisis came out. That's the reason I knew that shit was serious, because that's what got Puff hooked on drugs.
He probably going through a lot of shit right now because he probably going through a lot of withdrawals for the drugs. But the industry got him on drugs. And see, they do these things to take control.
Obviously, when it comes to these freak-offs and Diddy parties, drugs come up a lot in a lot of the reports about these parties. So, yeah. Wouldn't surprise me. And the videos I've seen of this guy, he always seems drunk. Like when he's on Instagram Live, there was that creepy Instagram Live he did saying that he adopted a white girl whose parents have now come forward and said that she's fine, by the way. That's just what's been reported. Obviously, people were concerned, especially in light of everything that came out afterwards. But when I saw that live, he seemed drunk to me.
Yes, it was breaking news. Diddy adopted a white child.
And that's what made it even more disturbing, that he's around, this child, his kids there, and the guy just seems off, off his head. When you're watching a lot of these people, when they appear on camera, you think that's just their personality. But when you think about it, that's not normal, the way they're acting. A lot of the times, they're under the influence of something. So the former Death Row CEO, Suge Knight, he accused industry titans of manipulating Sean Diddy Combs through drugs and alcohol. Knight is currently serving 28 years in prison for manslaughter, claims that powerful executives introduced Diddy to these substances as a means of control. Suge also said that on his label, because, he's a co-founder of Death Row, he said that, a lot of his artists would smoke weed. Like, that was pretty common. Nothing more, no harder drugs than that. But he said when they signed to other labels, coincidentally, they ended up getting involved in harder drugs. I don't know if he's just trying to paint himself out to be, a saint. With me, it was just weed. But with the others, I don't know. But that's what he said. He said, yeah, with other labels, the artists began to get involved in a more sinister world, so to speak. Definitely more heavily involved in drugs when they signed with these other executives. And here's the part where he mentions names. He calls out Andre Harrell, Clive Davis. He calls out a few names within the industry. I'll tell you one thing, I'm certainly not a fan of Clive Davis after what happened with Whitney. And then they had a party while her body was in the hotel room. Let's not forget that.
You were, I think, going to go to the Clive Davis party.
Yes.
It was a surreal event where Whitney's body was still in the hotel, and there was this sort of party where apparently half the room were in tears, the other half were kind of partying. What did you feel about that?
I thought that was complete insanity. And knowing Whitney, I don't believe that she would have said, the show must go on. She was the kind of woman that would say, stop everything. I'm not going to be there. I don't know what could motivate a person to have a party in a building where the person whose life he had influenced so enormously and whose life had been affected by her. So they were like, I don't understand how that party went on.
I had Clive Davis by pure chance in here on Friday night with Jennifer Hudson, and he obviously worshipped Whitney, and I think he must have gone through agony when he heard this news, knowing it was 2 or 3 hours till this event.
Right.
And I think he took the decision to turn it into a tribute to her. And I understand that. I mean, he obviously was wrestling with the right thing to do.
That would have been right if it really was a true tribute, and and a true tribute, might have been a truer, a more honest tribute in my opinion, would have been maybe call everybody together, let's say a prayer, and let's eat dinner and go home. I couldn't get dressed. I was supposed to go to the party. I just got off a plane from Miami at about 5:30. As soon as I hit the tarmac, I found out. I heard, and I couldn't put on makeup. I couldn't get dressed. I couldn't do anything. I was paralyzed. I couldn't do anything.
So yeah, he calls him out.
First of all, you got to start with at the top. You starting with the top. Clive Davis, Russell Simmons, Andre Harrell, Jimmy Iovine.
And then Chris Cuomo asks him about video evidence. Because a lot of the time in the reports, they say that a lot of things were recorded. Tapes were even sold on the black market within Hollywood and those sort of stories. So Chris asks Suge about any potential tapes and what do they show exactly?
You know what they show. They used to have a thing in the industry, right? And the sad thing about it, I don't like mentioning Usher. I don't like mentioning Justin Bieber. I don't like mentioning all these people that everybody know what time it is. So at the same time, they used to have a joke. They never played this joke with me. And they used to walk in the Interscope office. They'd go back there and they'd be like, hey, we passed the test. I said, we haven't did the test. One dude said, well, don't say that in front of Mr. Knight because he's going to take it offensive and hurt somebody. I said, well, whatever it is, I probably would take it offensive when somebody would get their ass whooped. You know, that was me in those days. But they used to have these guys, they used to call it the boiled egg test.
And then, guys, he talks about this boiled egg test. Use your imagination. You know, no, don't use your imagination. I don't even want to think about it. They had certain tests, rituals, and, you know, initiation procedures. That's all part of the industry. And, you know, this is when he was talking about tapes. So I don't even want to think about, is this on tape as well? Are there tapes where people are doing these weird initiations? This boiled egg test?
The eggs break, they say they're not ready yet. They ain't put enough work in. This is Hollywood. So everybody want to go act like they don't know what's going on.
Hold on a second,
but
Suge.
you just look.
I don't need eggs to be ruined for me. That's like one of my main sources of food. So he goes on to be a bit more specific about the sort of drug use that takes place. They introduced cocaine to my artists. So once they got on cocaine, once they got on drugs, once they got on alcohol, then that's when the weird stuff happened. I think that's what took Puffy down that lane. Now I can totally see that. It's obvious that drugs would be used to manipulate and control people. That they, I guess, became more easy to control. Once they were on substances like that, they were easier to control and to get to be a part of something that they probably wouldn't have been a part of in their right minds.
There's got to be a solution, because this has been going on in the industry for a whole bunch of years, for decades. And at the same time, you know, nobody wants this to be true, and it shouldn't have to be true. But if we don't fix it and do something about it, history will constantly
repeat itself.
So he's saying that everyone knows that this is going on within the industry. People have been in denial, but it's something that needs to be addressed. If it's not addressed, it will continue. So he's saying that. He's speaking about it as if it can be fixed. I don't know. I really don't know. I think I'm at the point where I'm like, throw the whole industry away. Seriously.
Now, Suge, you said something early on that I want to get clarification for the audience, Suge. You said early on, you can't just look at Diddy in isolation. You said this was done to him. He learned from others, and it was done to him, and then he did to others. To me, that sounds like what I hear when people are talking about abusive situations, you know, hurt people, that someone was sexually abused, they wind up being a perpetrator. Is that what you're suggesting about Sean Combs, that he was sexually abused and he now sexually abuses?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. I think he repeat what was done to him. And like I said, if you look at Russell Simmons, you know the truth. Andre Rail, you know the truth. Clive Davis, you know the truth. Jimmy Iovine, you know the truth. So there's not certain things that all of a sudden you got this. The industry is a quick business. It's been like that for a long time. And the casting couch is real, but it's for women and men.
So, you know, he goes on to say that he hopes Diddy doesn't have the same fate as E. I'm just going to say E. You know who I'm talking about. He also says that he needs to make sure that they know that he's not thinking about that, like unaliving himself. Because if you are on watch, so to speak, if you're being monitored 24/7, they take everything from you. He said they take your clothes, everything. You're in a room naked with nothing to make sure you don't use anything. And he said he wouldn't want that for him. Now, Diddy is in one of the worst prisons. He's in a prison with one of the worst reputations, with the worst conditions. According to reports, the food there is pretty bad, you know, even by prison standards. And the conditions there, again, by prison standards, are very bad. So he is not in a place where it's going to be easy for him to be comfortable, especially when you've lived a life of luxury for the longest time, when you're a billionaire.
Well, the first advice I have, I don't never want to say he's in danger, and neither should he say that. Because once he gets to the point where they feel he's going to be suicidal to himself, harmful to himself, once they put him on suicide watch, you have the rights to nothing. No socks, no drawers, no T-shirt, no blanket, no sheets. You so naked in a cell as a crazy man. So he definitely don't want to do that.
What I find quite telling is what he says about people knowing what they sign up to.
We all know what we sign up for in life. So if I sign up to be a football player, I knew I'm going to get hit and I'm going to hurt some other too. If I sign up to be in the music business and the entertainment business, if you factor right in being a black man, there's certain things you got to look at for the challenges.
But to me, that kind of indicates that, you know, he's saying that Diddy was well aware of what he was getting himself into. He chose to sign up for this. He chose to sign up for this lifestyle in exchange for obviously extreme wealth, extreme power, extreme influence, endless amount of parties and all sorts of things. He chose to go down that path. So let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.